Hey everyone, it's Ashley Jones, Event Director at Marketing Showcase. Thanks for watching one of our recordings from Marketing Showcase Online. I really hope you enjoy it, and hopefully I'll see you at another one soon.
Thank you, Ash. Right, I'll load up my screen to share. There we go. Hopefully everyone can see that. But yes, today we're going to be talking about how to tell your brand story. And although your mug wasn't quite to my taste, Ash, it was on theme because it's Avengers. And, you know, there is a spoiler alert, which you were warned about, but now's your chance. If you don't want to ruin plots, storylines, maybe like switch off, or there'll be bits where I'll be like, cover your ears, this bit might ruin it. But yeah, it will be powerful for your brand. So that's all good to know. Before we start, I've got a little poll that I would like to run. I just want to know where you're at with your brand story. So there's a few different questions just popped up on your screen. Excuse me, so you can see there. Let me know if you have a story that you're happy with, but you just want to check it's right. You have a story, but you know it's not quite right, needs updating. Or a lot of the time, this happens with me a lot of the time, my story's in my head, I just struggle to get it onto paper. Or you just have absolutely no idea and you're just looking to learn as much as possible. So let me know what you think. While you're doing that, I will move on to the next slide. And there we go. Hopefully you can see that one. So this is just a little bit about me. I'm not going to go into it. You know, I've got a lot to squeeze into 20 minutes and I want to allow lots of time for questions. Basically, I've been running my business 12 years now, have a bit longer experience in the PR and marketing world. I'm fascinated about the neuroscience behind building brands. And a lot of that comes from telling stories and you know, how that enters our brains and everything like that. So I'm a bit of a nerd, but it's all really important with the PR and marketing. So we dig a little bit deeper. I'm going to talk about our story as a business first, why story is important, and how to tell your brand story. So just three kind of key subjects. Number one, our story. I'm just moving the camera a little bit out of the way so I can read the slides. So who are Hugo? So there's a little bit of a clue on screen now and behind me in the little grids. So they are my dogs. And as crazy as this sounds, maybe you'll think I'm mad, but if you have a dog, hopefully you relate to it. But I got them when I was 23, starting out in my career, felt a bit lost, to be honest. I wanted to start my own business in marketing. They came along and they inspired me, gave me the confidence to do it. I set up Harvey and Hugo all around their personalities. Harvey was kind of quite a sensible lad. And notice I said was there. Harvey died a few years ago, which broke my heart. Hugo's still tottering about, he's 14, but Hugo was crazy back in the day. And he inspired me to set up Pay as Hugo PR. So it was flipping like one off. And it really suited his brand personality. I had very little money, I had no contacts, but there was no question about naming the business Harvey and Hugo. So they inspired me to set up the business. There's a clue in why I'm telling you this. I'll come on to that. More about Harvey and Hugo. We plan to be your PR partner for your business journey. We've got 3 brands: Pay as Hugo for your startups, Harvey and Hugo for regular monthly clients, and we've got a PR and training academy called Hugoversity. The aim is to suit every element of the brand journey. Businesses evolve and you need a flexible approach along the way. Our main purpose as a brand is lovable and memorable brands, and we do that by telling stories. Lovable brands need to kind of resonate with people. They build emotions and they're more easily memorable. And stories, we remember facts that are collected in stories. If I just fired loads of facts at you right now, you would struggle to remember them. But story helps them store it away in our brains. I'll be using examples throughout this because it always helps just to embed it in your brain. I'll be using our Pay as You Go, our new Pay as You Go e-commerce site as a guide through this. So why is story important? I'm going to leave a dramatic silence here while you read this quote. It's pretty grim, isn't it? I kind of left the silence there on purpose. The cure for this horror, as Will says, is story. But if you're a little bit like me, I see this as quite motivational because, we're only here for a short time. We know how it ends and let's give it all we can. So let's tell our stories. Let's build brands. Let's build amazing businesses. Let's really go for it. Let's take risks. But it shows we've been telling a story all our lives because we know the outcome. It helps us get through it. It's not just brands that tell stories, it's the law courts, the solicitors, judges, they put forward their cases through dialogue. We even tell stories in our sleep while we're dreaming. That's how critical they are to the human brain. So facts tell, stories sell. And I love this. The mind it's not a logic processor, it's a story processor. And when you think about it, it really is. It's the stories that resonate with us, that spark emotions, that compel us to action. And then I love that last quote: stories are the most powerful form of human communication. And they really are. Now onto telling your story. This is going to cover my 10 tips on how to tell your story, all inspired by great books like Start With Why, Building a Brand Story. There's a link to them at the end if you need to rush out and buy them, but you don't really have to, because I've condensed all the knowledge for you. Right, I know what you're thinking here. What is Maslow's hierarchy of needs doing in a marketing seminar? This is HR, you should be talking about PR. Well, I disagree. There's a lot of Maslow's hierarchy of, this is the basic human needs for anyone that doesn't know. There's a lot of that relates to PR and marketing and story. And I'll tell you why. So physiological needs, they come first. So we need to eat, we need to sleep, and then we need to drink. Back in our caveman days, we had to conserve as much energy as we could because we didn't know when our next meal was coming. We couldn't just pop down to Morrison's back in the day. And this is where we have inherited as human beings our lazy brains, purely to conserve energy, but we keep doing it. We still do it today. If I was to present a mathematical formula on the screen, I guarantee that your brain would be like, nope, not for me. Mine certainly would. So this is because despite our brain only being 2% of our overall body mass, it actually accounts for 25% of energy use. And that's when you're resting. And this fact blew my mind. Chess players during their tournament, just sitting down, they can burn 6,000 calories a day. So that's how much power your brain uses to process things. So, automatically, my point here that I'm getting to is if you confuse, you lose. So you need strong, clear, bold marketing messages that cut through the noise and the confusion. And there's so much of that about today that just resonate with you and make your brand lovable and memorable. Another aspect of storytelling and why it's so important is the whole tribal thing back in the day. And yes, as cavemen, you'd gather around the fire and you'd tell stories, and that would build that sense of love and belonging and safety and esteem, all those things higher up the triangle. If you take it back to a really basic sense of, say, a painter, you could just say, oh, I paint the walls in the house and make it look a bit nicer. But if you say, I help you give you the confidence to bring your friends around more because the room's looking perfect, that fits Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And that's about telling your story and resonating with your audience. So I hope you can see my link there and I'm not just going a bit crazy. My fact number 1 for telling a great story is origin. Everyone has a story. So many times I say to people, what's your story? And I don't just walk to random people and say, what's your story? It's part of, work. But everyone always says, oh, I don't have a story. I just set up the business, or I had no money. I had to sell my granny and the car. And you're like, well, that's your story. Tell people that. It makes, it's authentic, because no one wants to just kind of buy from a millionaire and just top up their bank account. They want to work with genuine people. They want to know the story. They want to feel it's relatable to them. Background, it builds trust and emotional connections. And that's what I did about Harvey and Hugo, the dogs. And I'm not just making it up. It has to be true. That's a very key part of this. Don't just invent a story, but you have one anyway in yourself, and people can relate to it. So always have your backstory. Clear messaging. So from that slide on Maslow's hierarchy of needs, people often think that people buy the cheapest or they buy the best. They frequently buy the best because sometimes they don't know it's the best. People buy products and services that they understand the fastest, especially today, because it's just crazy busy. There's so many distractions out there. If you're like me, you'll be about to buy something, you'll go into an app, you'll get distracted, you'll find yourself looking at Sheila's Instagram page, you don't even know who Sheila is, and you're just, whoa, what was I buying? So it's products that they understand the fastest, and products as well that are easy to purchase. Clear messaging, point number 2. Number 3, you have to have a purpose, or people have to know your purpose. Your customers can't know your purpose if you don't know your purpose, if your team doesn't know your purpose. And this is from Simon Sinek and his amazing book, Start With Why. He says that people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. I totally buy into this. A lot of people know what they do. A lot of people know how they do it. So that's kind of like USP, but not many people know why they're doing it. So to use the pay-as-you-go example, pay-as-you-go, we believe that PR and marketing services should be accessible to all. So how have we done that? We've removed barriers. So we've removed contracts. We've made them fixed fee, simple, affordable packages. And what do? There's press release packages, there's social media packages, video packages, animation packages, all kind of one-offs. So you've really got to work on that golden circle and work from the inside out, because it's that why, that purpose that compels people to buy, that builds that emotional connection. Okay, so this might make you think, well, what the hell are you telling me to tell our story about? If customers don't care about it and they just care about their own, then I'm wasting my time here. The secret is you've got to make your customer the hero. You've got to make them the center of your story. The biggest mistake businesses make when they tell their story is that they position themselves as the hero, because they think, oh, I'm going to save our customer from all their problems and everything's going to be okay. No, you have to make the customer their hero. Just even the fact that you're listening to them, it makes them more likely to kind of get engaged with your brand. But to listen to your customers, you've got to really know the customers. Who are they? What do they desire? What do they really desire? And sometimes it's not necessarily what you think. You've got to do your market research. So for example, for pay-as-you-go, our customers are startups often. There's sometimes business owners that can't afford a marketing agency or marketing in-house. There's sometimes marketing people that perhaps need that extra capacity, need support, but they haven't got a budget for a retainer. So you've really got to get to know who your customer is, position them as the hero at the heart of your story. The villain. So this is Darth Vader to Luke Skywalker. Oh, and sorry, I forgot to do the spoiler alert. This is where we come into the spoiler alert, where, films and plots, especially the slide at the end, you might start thinking, oh, I know what's going to happen, if you don't already. The problem is the villain. And, people have problems. And there's 3 types of problems. And your products and services will defeat the villain. There's external, internal, and philosophical. The problem is that often people sell solutions to external problems, but people buy solutions to internal problems. So what do I mean by that? So if I use the pay-as-you-go example, the fact that you have no time, no budget, they're external problems. Internal is I'm feeling frustrated, I've got no budget. Internal, I'm feeling stressed, I've got no time. It's those emotions that you need to appeal to that are more likely to compel action. The philosophical ones are, I want to kind of run a business, but I also want to save the planet, cut carbon, things like that. But you have to think about the problems that they're facing and speak their language. Just them knowing that you're listening to them again helps them engage to that side of things. To use another example here, if you had a time-saving app, each little distraction would be seen as a villain and positioned that way. So you guys and me, Harvey Hugo, we are the Yoda. We are the guide. That's how we position our brands. We guide the heroes or the main characters through the story. And if you think about it, everyone's looking for it. How many times have you Googled advice on or searched and watched a YouTube video on how to do something, or even spoken to a therapist or a doctor or read a book? Brands are also like this to guide people through. They're almost the supporting character in the film scene. To be a strong guide, you need to have 2 things. You need to show empathy, just show it again, understanding, relate your situation to what they're going through, because that will build trust. You also need to show authority. And to gain authority, you need to kind of create case studies, testimonials, show award wins, press coverage, and that helps build respect. So you need trust and respect to be a strong guide. The plan. So it's not enough to just be a guide. You have to also have a plan, because this ensures that they have trust with you. And again, it goes back to the caveman days. You've got to create that clarity. And also something that, you know, we're all guilty of forgetting when we're experts at what we do, what's obvious to you is just not obvious to the customer. So you've got to create these steps to alleviate confusion. And this is even before they've purchased. You know, what would the purchasing process look like? So for pay as you go, you go on, register, you click this box, you enter your email address, just little steps, breaking it down. When you have bought, then what happens? Who's in touch? And you'd be surprised. You might think, oh, it's too simple. People know what they're doing. But by telling them, especially as part of your brand story from the off, it just makes everything seem more simple. And alleviates, there's a lot of confusion if something's unknown to you. So it just helps ease that. The challenge. So you might think, right, I've defined desire, I've identified the challenges, I've empathized, I've established our competency, and I've given them a plan. Surely that's enough. Surely they're ready now. But actually, need that final push. You know, and as human beings, we love stories, but we don't like being pushy or, you know, asking. You don't have to be pushy. You ask, you know, are you ready to make a purchase now? But you'll be surprised how many times people will deliver an absolutely excellent pitch. And I'm guilty of this myself as well. We're great brand builders. We're not great salespeople, but we'll build it up. We'll deliver a perfect story, and then we'll just leave it. We'll just leave it with them. But actually, it's been proven that people like to be asked, you know, are you ready? That's why on websites, there's big buy now buttons in bright red, because it's like, oh, okay, this is what I need to do next. And there's so many distractions. There's so many things. I think on average, I've got the figure down here somewhere. I think it's about 3,000 3,000 brand messages a day that you will see on average, which, you know, there's so much noise out there. So you've got to cut through it. This is interesting. People are more motivated to make a change to avoid a loss rather than achieve a gain. It's been proven. Daniel Kahneman, his prospect theory, demonstrated this. So people would be more upset at losing £1,000 rather than the joy that they would experience at gaining £1,000. So build it into your story. Now, I'm not saying here, I'd love to say with pay as you go, if you don't buy from us, it will be a disaster. Your life won't be as good. Yeah, that's not necessarily true. But, you know, saying, oh, your brand won't be built as much, you know, that your competitors will get ahead. The competitors' comparison is often a good one, because the comparison is the thief of joy. As kind of many people agree. So, you know, position that. Insurance companies are really good with this, you know, just saying, oh, you don't need to take the fire insurance, but, you know, if your house all burnt down, you're like, oh, I'll buy it. So just a little pinch of that to show them what could happen can be quite motivational. Finally, the happy ending. Never people understand how your brand can change their lives. You've got to tell them. We work with a kitchen company. It just makes the marble that goes on the work surface, and they're like, we enhance people's quality of lives. That's their message, and I love it. I love how bold they are with them. But you've got to build this picture of success for people, and build that vision of where you can take them, what your results will achieve. You know, if you do pay as you go PR, you know, we'll help enhance your brand. You'll attract more customers. You can hire someone to do your marketing, take you to the next level. So you've always got to show them what it might look like. Quick recap. Character has a problem, meets the guide, gives them the plan, calls them to action, helps them avoid success, and leads to them away from failure. This is the Star Wars plot. I'm not going to read it, but hopefully you can see that. There's so many films that follow this same line, but, you know, it works. It still sells millions, and there's no reason why you can't apply it to your brand. Brand story one-liners is sometimes you just need a quick one-liner for your Twitter bio, Instagram bio. You don't have to go through the full process if you're just doing a summary. Hero, villain, plan, happy ending. Just conscious of time, so I'm whizzing through these. Brand story one-liners for a workout app. We provide busy moms with a short and meaningful workout they can use to stay healthy and have renewed energy. You know, it's quick, it's simple, but it gets to the point. It has that powerful story message in there. If you want to develop your own brand story, which I highly recommend, obviously you need the origin, you need the purpose, you need a clear message, but Donald Miller has developed this amazing script that you can use as a guide. It is, the URL, Alicia is going to share it in the box, in the chat box, but it's storybrand.com/graphics if you'd like to use that. Here are the 3 books that I mainly refer to throughout. And I am now, there are my contact details, just a quick whiz up on screen. I'm now going to go and take some questions, which I'm really excited about. So whistle stop tour and telling your story. I could talk about it for hours, but you know, you don't want that. If you do, give me a call.
We do. We want more. It's like an encore at the end. There was loads of love for that in the chat. Really, really enjoyed that presentation. You always bring so much energy to these, so I really appreciate you being here. Yes, we're going to get on with questions. Whilst I allow people some time just to pop those in the chat, I think they were furiously making notes throughout that. I'm also just going to run another poll. Now, this one is important, mind you. So if you enjoyed Charlotte's presentation and you want them to take a look at your story and provide free feedback once you've had time to work on it, you just need to pop an answer in the chat there, and I'll make sure your details are passed over to Charlotte and the guys can get in touch afterwards. So I'm going to leave that running for, I don't know, a minute or so whilst people do that. Charlotte, I've got a question for you just before we get into audience ones, and I'm also going to share the results of the first poll. We can just have a chat about those.
Okay.
So you spoke a lot. A story is brilliant to develop, and I'm thinking about my story about Marketing Showcase in the background whilst you're doing that. I'm trying to apply it to myself. And the one thing that I struggle with as a person is I say 3 words rather than 1. And you were saying there at the end, you just need a short statement that, you know, kind of encompasses your story and brings it all together. I find that really tough. Have you got any tips of how we can create, you know, merge our story into one very short and lovely statement to share with our audience?
It is tough, you know. I think my main tip is to go back to those 10 tips, get as much down on paper or on the laptop as you can about your brand, and then you start refining it and drill it down to those 4 things. But it's a really good framework if you do just think of the hero, which is your customer, the problems that they face, you know, how you can guide them through it, and what success looks like. And don't worry if it's not right straight away. The story evolves, you know. Ours has evolved as the brands grow, so it's always going to change anyway. But also listen to your gut. If it feels good in your gut, the story that you're coming up with, it means it's aligned to your values and what your beliefs are. And if you've got something on paper but you're like, oh, it doesn't feel right, keep working on it. Just try and drill down those emotions. Just try and get words out onto paper, which is really hard to do.
No, fair play. Thank you. Let's move on to some audience questions. I've still got that poll running. I'm going to end it shortly. So first was an anonymous attendee. Ooh. How do you simplify a brand story for organizations which is 100 years old with multiple products and audiences?
Oh, I love those ones. That's where it gets really exciting. You know, you can break things down, you know, create sub brands as well sometimes. But the fact that it's so historic and got so many brands to it, that makes it such a great story because it'll have history. But break it down by target audience as well, or by key services. You know, we've talked about the overall brand here today, but you could break it down by demographics and key target audiences and messages that are going to work for them. So for example, pay as you go, I talked about startups, marketing managers, business owners, but we could have separate story that's really going to resonate with startups and really kind of appeals to them. The more specific the message, you know, it's going to appeal to those people more directly because they feel special. Yes, you still need that overarching brand message. But again, we've kind of tried to do that with Harvey and Hugo, like the whole PR journey, your PR partner for the journey. And then each Harvey and Hugo has its own message to build lovable and memorable brands. Pay as you go is their accessibility for everyone, and Hugoverse is about empowering you to do your own thing. So break it down, but then also think of the bigger picture.
Thank you. Brilliant. On to the next question. How do you ensure, this one's from Samantha, how do you ensure when companies outsource their social media and thought leadership PR pieces with you, that you understand and embrace their brand?
Yeah, it's really important for us. And we have customers that don't really appreciate the value of story. And you know what? We advise them, look, you should be thinking about this. And we always ask them, we've got a series of questionnaires and we're like, what's your story? What's your vision? What's your mission? What's your purpose? What's your origin? You know, it right down to what would you say? What would you never say? What verbs would you use? So we ask all these questions in detail. Still though, sometimes customers are like, It's a bit fluffy for us. You know, we clean windows. One of our clients, they provide products that clean windows. Just tell people about them, and you know, like, okay, we'll do it. It's still better than nothing, but it would be better if we knew all of your story. So sometimes we're like, oh, your story doesn't quite resonate, it doesn't quite fit, can we help you develop it? And again, sometimes like, yeah, that's brilliant, that's even better, because then we're really working on it to make sure it's on brand. And just we check in, we use kind of a lot of software, and we always put their key objectives and the key values and the kind of purpose, we have to have in our hearts right from the start. We have to remind ourselves of that every day. That's how we try.
Cool. Right, Charlotte, questions are coming in thick and fast, so we're going to try and boss through as many as possible.
Right, I'll be quick.
I'll share the results. No, it's fine. It's fine. I'm going to share the results of the start poll. I'm going to leave that for everyone to have a look at. And I'm going to move on to the next question. So Rebecca says, great webinar.
Thank you.
In my experience, business development teams often lean towards persuading B2B customers using facts and stats. How can I show them that the value of bringing more, how can I show them the value of bringing more emotion into their selling?
Yeah, they do. They love it. They love facts, but maybe present it back to them. You know, they're giving you loads of facts, or find some facts that are similar about your company. Fire them at them and say, can you remember this? Hopefully they'll be like, no. Then build all the facts into the story, and then see how easy it is for them to remember. You can also find loads of backup through scientific research in the likes of these books. And I might be able to think of some if you give me a bit more time, just as ammunition for your team. But there's so many stats on psychologist studies throughout the years that show that story does affect things like the emotions. You know, facts don't go into your memory, that not as easily, not unless something really resonates on a personal level, whereas how you associate brands, things, emotions, it all feeds into your limbic part of the brain that then makes it more memorable. And it's so hard to measure whether a brand's become more memorable or how it's changed perceptions, which makes them, they want quick results. But long term, it really does generate the results that you need. So try and find your facts. Not that that's contradicting itself, but find your facts about psychological research and say, look, this is the evidence that a story can resonate stronger than a fact.
Brilliant. Okay. Rebecca says, thank you. Quick fire questions now. Does this all apply to B2B companies as well as B2C, as the audience is obviously very different?
I believe it does. Yeah, at the end of the day, we're all people behind businesses, people are consumers, and you're selling to people, and people have emotions, and people have hearts and memories. So it's the same principle for me.
Great. Now, putting you on the spot maybe slightly, but I'm sure you'll be able to deal with it. A case study, a brand that maybe isn't telling their story that we'd all resonate with and we all know. And can you give any explanation why they're maybe not hitting the mark at the minute?
Oh, there's been quite a few throughout the
pandemic.
Okay. Yeah, there's I'm trying to think of the best one, but take Sports Direct, for example. That tried to position itself early in the pandemic, as we all know, as a critical supplier, that they needed to be open because people needed to stay fit and healthy. That was the story they were telling. You know, fitness is very important, but I'm sure we've all got some old shorts and t-shirt we could pull out the cupboard. People saw through that story that it wasn't genuine and where they were positioning themselves. And it has affected the brand. You know, same with Wetherspoons. You know, they were like, oh, we don't need to take this seriously. The virus does not transmit in pubs. The story that they were telling wasn't necessarily true. They hadn't done their research, and they hadn't thought about people's emotions and how it will affect them. People have been very kind of affected by the pandemic, and so easily upset. And so you've got to be even more careful with your brand story in these situations.
Great. You got a clap for that one. Loving the examples. Very good. We've gone 2 minutes over, Charlotte. We've got a couple of questions left, so I'm really going to try and round these ones up quickly because I want to make sure everyone gets the answers. Hopefully you're okay for time.
Yeah.
Should brand story be aligned with the company's mission statement as well as their core values?
Yeah. Should brand story be aligned with mission statement as well as values? Yeah. Yes, absolutely stood. Mission statement essentially is your purpose, and that was kind of point 3, I think, that needs to be built in there. So, you know, there's these fancy names like mission statement, but essentially it's your purpose. It's why do you do what you do? That has to be at the core of everything. And obviously your values are then the reasons why you do what you do.
Great. This is going to be a lovely one just to round off. And just before I do, well, no, I'll do this in a minute. Let's get on to the question. Organization split. So it's a new company formed from a organization with a deep legacy, and they're struggling as much finding their internal story as they are kind of portraying it to their external stakeholders and their audience. Where do they start? Have you got any tips?
Yeah, you've got to ask yourself some why questions and dig deep. So why did you split? There was clearly maybe some, I don't know, different values potentially, or different opportunities that you saw, different products, different services, different ways of doing things. Ask yourself those why, how, what questions. How are you going to do things differently? But the key answer is why, and hopefully you've got some deep-seated beliefs to back up that. Maybe you've got more information. I could give a further answer.
Well, look, no, Charlotte, unfortunately, I'm going to draw a line in the sand here because we could just go on for ages and ages and ages. And this, you know, will eat into the next session. So, Charlotte, I'm going to say thank you so much for your time. That was an awesome way to kick off Marketing Showcase, the event. That's exactly how we want to start. We've started with the benchmark very high. Hi, everyone. Thanks for watching another recording from Marketing Showcase Online. I hope you enjoyed it. Just to let you know, we've got all of the recordings uploaded to our brand new YouTube channel, so go over there and check it out if you want some more great content. We run these events once every month, free of charge, so head over to our website to grab tickets for next month's event. I look forward to seeing you there.